What's up, YouTube? Scott here with the 9 to 5 Gamer. I apologize, it's been a couple weeks since I brought you guys a new video. Life has just gotten real busy recently, so it's been hard to break away to bring you guys some content. So in my last video, I kind of did an unbox and first impressions of the latest Anbernic device that I added to my portfolio, which is the RG40XXH, which is essentially this 4-inch device that you would primarily use, in my opinion, for 4:3 aspect ratio devices. Consoles, just because of the screen size. I'm of the opinion that if I'm going to emulate something, I want it to be as close to the original hardware as I can, and stretched pixels or black bars around the screen definitely is a reminder that you're using emulation. So in my first video, I mentioned that I was actually pretty surprised by this device's stock operating system or firmware. I did elect after a few days to try on some of the other options that are out there. And I landed on Knulli. I'm going to mispronounce it on purpose and say Knulli because that's what I think it should be called probably. But I am somebody who really likes the simplicity of the emulation station front end, which you can get with Knulli. And it just makes it really easy to scrape for box art. You know, if I hop into Game Boy Advance here, you can see I've got all the box art scraped, and I've even got my videos going of a little bit of the content. So I'm just used to emulation station at this point, so I thought it made a lot of sense. And they did a good job already of keeping the hardware features still functioning. Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, the reset and lock buttons still function. You can control the RGB on the joystick still. So in my experience so far, I haven't lost any functionality by migrating to Knulli. I did still back up the original SD card, just in the event that I wanted to revert back. But so far, this has been my experience, the best way to enjoy this device. One of the things that really bothered me about the stock operating system is when you changed in and out of ROMs, there was kind of this popping sound or a clicking noise that was kind of weird. I also had occasionally just some kind of weird UI issues and some shuddering. But again, if you're not a huge retro gamer, I was really surprised at the stock operating system's ability to pick up and play. But if you're someone like myself who's got a little bit of time to tinker or enjoys tinkering, I would say Knulli is the route to go. The only, I would say, mild inconvenience is because this is essentially the file format of the SD card is not a traditional FAT32 or Windows capable storage format. So once you format your SD card with this operating system, the easiest way, unless you go to a dual SD card setup, is you do end up transferring ROMs over to this device over the internet. And once you do it once or twice, it's actually very simple. You're essentially just finding this device from your PC on your local Wi-Fi and transferring files that way. I would say the only downside is you're limited in the transfer speed based on Wi-Fi capabilities and the throughput of the devices. That said, we're talking about retro gaming, right? So this thing really only plays up to PSP, in my opinion. I think Nintendo DS is probably a stretch. Obviously, no GameCube, no PS2. So the file sizes of ROMs are not very big. These Game Boy Advance games that I cycle through here, these are a few megabytes tops each. The biggest file size that I put on here comes from PlayStation games, and that's because they had the luxury of using CDs back in the day, sometimes multiple CDs. So overall, I'm really happy with this purchase for the price point, but long term, I do think putting Knulli on here is the better way to go because of the simplicity of emulation station. What's so funny, and those of you that are new to the channel, this will be your first time probably hearing it, but my returning followers, you know that I'm not the traditional YouTuber with tons of hours that can sink into all the little tiny differences in some of these consoles, nor am I reviewing any AAA content just because of the kind of boringness, open worlds, and extensive time investment these games require. But even it's funny, I bought this with the intent to play 4:3 aspect ratio games, and what I've been doing actually is I am playing Game Boy Advance again, which I seem to buy all these retro consoles and end up playing Game Boy Advance on them. What I did like about the stock operating system or stock firmware, and I'll just hop into Golden Sun real quick because that's what I've been playing. I'm probably, I don't know, 10 hours on this device since I've got it, and I'm playing the original Golden Sun. And that is because I like original hardware, but Golden Sun, the original Golden Sun, is it's too expensive in a cartridge form for me to make that investment. So I bought the second chapter of Golden Sun on original GBA hardware. I'm going to play that game in my modded Game Boy Advance SP. Once I finish this, I've actually never played Golden Sun all the way through. I started and stopped a few times as a kid. So I'm starting, I've got a Golden Sun playthrough going. I'm probably, like I said, I don't know, maybe 8 to 10 hours in. This isn't my most recent save anymore. But even on this 4x3 screen, with this filter on top, or this shader, it kind of adds this nice bezel around the bottom. And it'll probably be difficult to pick up on camera, but even kind of this shadow around the outside, that when I play it, I thoroughly enjoy it. It does not give off an emulation feel. I can have perfect pixels. And one of the key combinations here on this device with Knulli is you can hold the menu button here and hit the top right bumper and cycle through different shader options. So there's one in here called Nearest, and it just gives you a very kind of pixel perfect, makes it feel like it's on the original hardware. But this screen is really what's encouraging me to play games on this that I would normally play on original hardware. Like I mentioned, I really thought I was going to be playing Super Nintendo and PlayStation 1 on this. Maybe some Nintendo 64, but Nintendo 64 is kind of a pain to emulate on a lower-end device like this. It takes some tinkering. And of course, I jumped right back into Game Boy Advance games. So screen's very good. I think the build quality is good. I think this is more comfortable to use than the RG40XXH that got me into emulation. I've had this for almost 3 years at this point, and this is what opened my eyes up to mobile emulation. And I'll kind of put them next to each other again for size comparison. This is not all that much bigger. It's just a different form factor with a larger screen. This device did not have built-in Wi-Fi, does not have built-in Bluetooth. You had to use a Wi-Fi dongle. I think for the money and the ability to play both 4:3 aspect ratio and a native Game Boy Advance resolution, this is actually a really good kind of one device does it all in the lower end tier. I'm pretty happy with it. I'm going to keep investing some more time in here. I actually think I might do kind of like an in-depth on Golden Sun because now that I'm older and I've played this game more, I have a whole new appreciation for the battle system. It is so much more complex and enjoyable and configurable with the little guys that you can summon and how it impacts your class per se. So I'm going to do a little bit of a review and kind of talk about this game at some point, but I'll keep this just kind of my follow-up thoughts on the device itself running the Knulli firmware. One of the things that's it's small but silly is I really enjoy every time I boot this thing up, it cycles between like 5 different songs, kind of like some smooth jazz. It's pretty funny. It's a little small touch, right? I'm going to try to get some PlayStation time in here. I'm probably going to either play the original Resident Evil or the original Silent Hill as far as a 4x3 3D game on here. I tried to play Tomorrow Never Dies, and it just really shined how much a third-person shooter needs dual joystick. It's just weird to play a game like that nowadays with being exposed to so many other modern shooter games with dual joysticks. I think GoldenEye did it better in it being first-person. So, one of the other games I want to bring you a comparison on that I'm going to do is Need for Speed Porsche Unleashed. I think I mentioned it briefly in one of my other videos. For me, Need for Speed Porsche Unleashed was the real kind of first exposure to Need for Speed. I think most people, when they think of the Need for Speed series, they think of Need for Speed Underground, Underground 2, or maybe Most Wanted. In my childhood, it was playing Need for Speed Porsche Unleashed on the computer. That was my real first exposure to something that was a little bit more serious than an arcade-style driving game. I went ahead and I put the PlayStation 1 ROM on here, and I also picked up the Porsche Unleashed Game Boy Advance cartridge. So I'm going to play that game on both of these. Getting it to run on PC is pretty hard, and I think EA is making it challenging. That's why you can't pick it up on Steam or anything like that. So I'll try to get Porsche Unleashed running on my computer, but that might be a bit of a challenge. So for now, I'm going to relive a little bit of my childhood through those two, just to kind of give you a glimpse of the difference. But anyway, thank you guys so much for joining, and those are kind of my short thoughts on having this device after a couple weeks and changing out the operating system. And I hope to bring you guys some more videos soon. Thanks again.